So the first question is, from the perspective from each of your own spiritual traditions, what do you believe is the most important thing that the Tibetan people have contributed to the dialogue between religions over the past 50 years? Do you want to start with that, Robert?
Well, I think His Holiness has given the leadership in bringing together the leaders and people from many faith traditions. He's on the Peace Council, which brings together people of all the different faith traditions and reminds us that, yes, we have different faiths, but we also have a great deal in common, and also articulates the fact that we can work together on certain issues and not get bogged down on the minutiae of the different religions. But we are faced with enormous problems like poverty in the world, and for the need for the faith traditions to give spiritual leadership in the world. So that has been a tremendous contribution, and I'm honoured to be on the Peace Council with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Bishop Tutu, and leaders from the Muslim and the Christian and the Jewish and the Hindu faiths. And it's just wonderful to see that they can come together and dialogue on important issues facing the human family. I think that's a great contribution that His Holiness has made to the world.
Of course, wherever I go, I always have two commitments. Number one commitment is promotion of human value, human compassion, and with that, forgiveness, tolerance. These automatically come. Once you have genuine, deep respect of other as a human brothers, sisters, then naturally some different opinions, different sort of views you must respect. And also the other side also, see, because of human being, because of human intelligence, there are also some certain sort of sufficient reasons. And then one reality, there's many different aspects. So other one, you see, looking from different aspect, so which you may not sort of pay much attention. So therefore, listen others' different view is very, very helpful to know your own sort of understanding about the reality. So that's number one, my commitment. Number two commitment is the promotion of religious harmony. So in this respect, it seems I made some contribution. So at least, you see, among the major institution, Christianity and Judaism and some Muslim also. You see, now there are, I think, among my friends, there are people who really accept Buddhism as something, a good religion. Otherwise, some people, some sort of very narrow-minded sort of orthodox of religious people. So I heard recently in America, I heard this one orthodox sort of, I think, Christian. You see, of course, understandable. When I heard that, oh, of course, it is very possible. So that person is expressed because quite often visit by Dalai Lama. So now Dalai Lama leading more people to hell. It's perfectly understandable, you see. You see, the problem is to say concept of one truth, one religion. Then, of course, the other side, you see, look, other religion is sort of dangerous, isn't it? So we Tibetan also, you see, in the previous time, you see, in I think beginning of 20th century, so some Christian missionaries workers come there. You see, oh, Tibetan, quite a number of Tibetans say, oh, this is dangerous. So that's similar, you see, lack of understanding, lack of awareness about the value of other. So I think that respect, becoming more closer sort of friendship, and through that way, deeper understanding about other value. So, as I mentioned earlier, Buddhism also quite good religion, that kind of something. Then I myself, of course, as a result of more acquaintance with practitioner, mainly it's a practitioner, the Christians, some Jews, some Muslims. As a result, deep admiration from my part. I really appreciate. And for Christianity is concerned, I think among these major religious traditions, I think Christianity, made maximum contribution for education, this whole planet. Sometimes they also try to conversion. That's a little bit sort of different matter. Different matter. That also, you see, I think largely, you see, due to the local people. If the local people themselves, you see, sufficient sort of knowledge about their own tradition, then the conversion is difficult. Conversion is not that much serious. You see, they have their own sort of also principle, their own sort of tradition. So like that. So therefore, I really feel, and then quite a number of occasions, a different country, you see, concerned organizer who used to who made my sort of visit. These usually, you see, make interfaith service. So quite a number of occasions I heard, you see, when you see people from different denomination, even within Christian, you see, they introduced each other. Then they mentioned their first meeting. Because of my presence, because of interfaith, due to Dalai Lama, they had the opportunity meeting themselves, meeting among themselves. Usually, you see, that means, you see, usually no meeting, no contact. So like that. So, in that respect, I made some contribution, little contribution.
Could I add a little bit about your contribution? You also have accepted the inclusion of secular people like myself. I always feel like I have to be the voice for those who do not practice a particular faith. I was raised Catholic, but no longer believe in Catholicism, but accept the values of compassion and truth. And I was very pleased to hear you speaking a lot in Vancouver about compassion and secularism, and it didn't necessarily have to be a faith. And I think one problem that we see in the world sometimes when we're talking about interfaith dialogue and tolerance and acceptance is somehow leaving out those of us who don't necessarily practice an institutionalized religion. And I've been extremely appreciative personally that you have opened the discussion beyond just the institutional religions, because many of us have different ways of expressing faith and spirituality that don't fall within religious boundaries. Just similar to some of our friends who always talk about women as being mothers of the planet, and I'm like, I chose not to have babies, so some of us make other choices, but we also want to be included. So I appreciate the contribution you've made of accepting those of us who are a little bit heathenist.
Yes, sir. Oh. That actually, I think, in real sense, I think quite a big portion, if not majority, of the 6 billion human beings, I think in real sense, I think not much serious belief about their own religion. Now, I think the clear example, clear indication is the people talks, you see, the peace or non-violence, these things, or God-fearing these things. But actual sort of work, actual sort of life, don't care these things. So that means these people are not very serious about their own religion. So therefore, I think in real sense, I think quite a big portion of the humanity, non-believer. Meantime, these are a part of the 6 billion human being, and individually, they also want peace, peace through inner peace. So they also want, if there is way to bring inner peace without religion, I think many of them, I think, need that. Usually, I think the problem is some religious friend, spiritual brothers also, you see, have the view the moral ethics must be based on religious faith. Then the problems, unless you accept religion, no basis of moral ethics, then how to bring these people, you see, the sort of, the conviction, moral ethics is basis of our meaningful life. We must find ways and means. Without religion, we human beings, we born from mother, and we grown up maximum mother's care, mother's affection, with mother's milk. So that really, because of the seeds are implant seed of compassion. So even those non-believer, even I think any religious people, if someone show genuine affection, they will appreciate, isn't it? So the secular way of approach. Secular does not mean we are rejection of religion. Respect all religion, but meantime, also you see respect non-believers. Non-believers also, you see, part of humanity. Our brothers, among our brothers, sisters, not only believer. Let us work together, bring more happier world. So secular is very, very important. Secularism, very important. So secular way of approach is something like more universal. If moral ethics based on religion, then it cannot be universal.
هولینس سکولار در زمینه سیاست معنای دیگری هم داره و اون جدایی دین از حکومته.
Secular in the political world has also another meaning, which means the separation of religion and government.
حکومت‌های دینی این مشکل بزرگ رو دارن که همه چیز رو میخوان با یک قواعد از پیش ساخته شده حل کنن.
The problem with religious governments is that they want to resolve everything with laws that have been predetermined.
و بدین جهت حکومت‌هایی که بر مبنای ایدئولوژی بنا میشن آخرش به استبداد میرسن.
And that is why governments that are based on ideology end up despotic. Totalitarian.
استبداد.
Totalitarian.
و غیر دموکراتیک.
And non-democratic.
برای اینکه عقیده مردم مطرح نیست. اون ایدئولوژی که بر مبناش حکومت تأسیس شده مهمه.
Because the opinion of the people does not matter. It is the ideology of the government that has become important.
و شما رهبر دینی مذهبی هستید که نشون دادید که حکومت مذهبی میتواند دموکرات هم باشد.
You are a religious leader and you have shown that a religious rule can also be democratic.
و این برای من بسیار جالب بود وقتی که شنیدم از سال 2001 شما نخست وزیر رو با رأی مردم تبت انتخاب کردید.
It was very interesting for me to hear that since 2001 you have had an elected government and you have an elected prime minister with the votes of the people.
و در حقیقت اهمیت شما برای جهان از این جهته که شما نشون دادید که حکومت‌های دینی اگر درست فکر کنن میتونن دموکرات هم باشن.
So your importance to the world is that you have demonstrated that religious leaders and governments, if they work well, if their conduct is good, they could also be democratic.
و اگر دموکرات نیستند به این دلیله که کسانی که در رأس حکومت هستند اینها خودشون دیکتاتورن.
And the reason they're not democratic is because those who are at the helm or the leaders are not democratic themselves.
و این مفهوم جدید از حکومت مذهبی برای من خیلی جالب بود.
So it was very interesting for me to see this new concept of theocracy, religious government.
If you want to know something, say, about the background, in Buddhist tradition, firstly, basically, the Buddha gives same right, male, female, the highest ordination to both male and female. Then, of course, you see when you see same sort of highest ordained sort of men and women come together, then male first, female next. So little sort of discrimination. But basically, it's same equal right. Then, you know, some sort of conduct, monastic conduct. See, no single monk have the authority. Only sangha or group of monk have the sort of authority, final decision. So something democratic principle there. So in any way, from the religious view, religious sort of background, whether it's the agree or not, in today's reality, we must follow democratic way. That is the best way to serve, to give the maximum satisfaction to the people. After all, any country belongs to the people, not the government. Suppose the government is servant of the people. So ultimate sort of voice must in hand of people. So democratic system is the best way to listen other sort of wish.
امیدوارم بقیه رهبران مذهبی هم از شما یاد بگیرن.
I hope that other religious leaders will also learn from you.
Oh, I don't know. I have to learn from others.
Well, I would love to see His Holiness the Pope and Pope Benedict in conversation, because I come from a Catholic tradition, and I'm afraid within the Catholic tradition we really need a reformation, because it is very male-dominated, authoritarian. From the top down, it's not in the least democratic. And I think it's very sad that even today, as we move towards democracy and equality between men and women, that within the Catholic Church there is no debate with regard to the role of women, ordained priests. Some friends of mine would like to be ordained into the priesthood, and there is just no movement, no discussion at all on that. together with very many areas. So I think that our institutions need to be, look, we're now in the 21st century and we need to move forward for reform and for change. So, I mean, as a committed Catholic, I would love to see the attitude that His Holiness has of openness, dialogue and listening and respect and equality within many of our organisations. So will you go and see His Holiness the Pope and have a wee word in his ear?
Of course. It is always now, I say, happy to meet religious leader, and particularly the Pope, a new Pope. Of course, I already met, and then the previous one, of course, a very, very close sort of spiritual spiritual brother. Oh, really wonderful, really wonderful. However, there is certain sort of the practice or certain tradition of different religion, then I should be very strictly neutral. If I intervene, that's not good.
No,
not
I
good.
understand, Your Holiness.
If other religious people, intervene about Buddhism, then we feel a little uncomfortable. So similarly, if I intervene, if their faith, their sort of tradition, that's not good. That's not my right. So the certain sort of modification, or you use one word, you say some change. You mentioned some change necessary. So that should initiated by, like you, the Catholic practitioner, not from me.
However, you said recently that you are a feminist monk. Maybe if you meet the Pope, you could just mention that you're a feminist monk, and that would set his mind thinking a little bit.
That I think firstly, I think if I have occasion to visit Thailand or Burma or Sri Lanka, where you see the Buddhist monastic sort of system, very, very sort of well established. So in Thailand, you see, the monk, even you see, should not touch female, and even layperson. You see, if layperson is to show respect, you should not return this way. You should remain like that. So I think there is a danger if I state I'm feminist, and I think they may dismiss me from Sangha group.
Can I ask another question? When you all have had a chance now to look at the Tibetan refugee community, so what do you think is the most important lesson for other refugee groups around the world to learn from, and what can they gain from this Tibetan refugee experience?
I don't know. I think we have very little contact with other refugees, except some Vietnamese. From the religious level, we have some connection, some Vietnamese refugee or Cambodian refugee, like that. But then, the Tibetan refugee settle in different countries, in Switzerland or Canada and also America, of course Nepal, and most cases, and India also, the Tibetan refugee community's relation with local people generally very good. And I received quite a number of sort of occasion, the local Indian officials praising the Tibetan community, Tibetan refugee community. They are hardworking and disciplined. Sometimes they make sort of comparison to local tribes. You see, although Tibetan also quite lazy, so there's some of these tribes even more lazy. So the local sort of officials, you see, very much praising, you see, Tibetan. generally gentle and hardworking, and more because of the humility. And also in America, and also in Canada, some of the local people, where Tibetan settlement, Tibetan community there, they, of course, occasionally some problems also there. It is quite understandable. But basically, people love Tibetan, generally speaking. So through that, I think one example, little contribution regarding ahimsa, non-violence. One ex-official who served many years in here, he eventually settled in America. He is working one kitchen of big university. So his sort of work is cleaning vegetable. So while he is cleaning vegetable, whenever he found some insect, he always put it in a pot. Then later, that sort of bring to somewhere in the soil or some vegetation area, release them. So at the beginning, some of his colleagues, when he used to pick up additional work, isn't it, and put there. So some of his colleagues at the beginning, a little bit surprised. So they usually used to kill. So then later, his colleagues also used to follow his pattern, or pick up the insect and put in pot, and then later release. So that's one small contribution for practice of non-violence. So then quite a number of Chinese, very neutral, and because of who visit Tibet and look objectively. And many Chinese appreciate about Tibetan spirituality, how strong and peaceful, smile, joyful. So some Chinese writers, intellectuals, even is mentioned to me in mainland China, last 60 years, the traditional Chinese values now completely disappear. So now only money. So as a result, no moral principle, not because of the truthfulness. So therefore, a lot of corruptions, a lot of sort of dirty things there. So they are hoping in future, Tibetan can help to revive spirituality among millions of Han people. So there is some potential to serve humanity in a small way. Like that.
Well, I was very impressed here visiting the Tibetan school and the Tibetan community in exile, Your Holiness. And I think what I learned here is the importance of community. I mean, when people are uprooted from their land and have to go to another land, they need so much to have that sense of community and people around to care. And we've most certainly seen it here in the Tibetan village and up here in Dar es Salaam. And the world is on the move today, tragically. Because of so much political unrest and because of the environment. There are far more refugees around the world than ever there were. I mean, I go a lot to Israel, Palestine. There are 6 million Palestinian refugees around the world today, and that's only one example of so many. So I think we have got to look seriously now at this question of refugees. How can they be helped when they are forced out of their country, and how can they be helped be taken care of, human security for them. They need accommodation, they need home, they need food. So I think the Indian government in hosting the Tibetan people has shown that example of opening up. And instead of, as we're seeing, so many governments are closing their doors now, and indeed people are saying the borders and the walls are growing up. They don't want refugees, and we've now environmental refugees now. Bangladesh, the land is sinking because of climate change, and millions of people will now be refugees looking for a new home. And we have got to really begin to think, where we have free land, that we have to be the human family, a one world, and stop this ideas of bringing up our borders and this is our land and no one's coming in, or this is my job. And again, we really have to look in a completely new way at this movement of people around the world, and of course deal with the issues like climate change so that people can stay in their homes, but look at how governments accommodate people coming from other countries, and look at governments where people have been forced out, such as China, and say, well, and now in Tibet, say, well, the Tibetan people, their homes are here, let them come back. Palestinians shouldn't have to live in foreign lands. The Israeli government should take seriously the right to return of the Palestinian refugees. So there are many, many challenges there within the whole idea of refugees around the world today. But I do think this is a model here within Dar es Salaam and the rest of India of community, of people building community and trying to live happily in their moment until the change takes place for them again. It's a huge problem, refugees now, for all governments and for people. Yeah.
من به مناسبت حرفم با پناهنده های زیادی کار کردم و جوامع پناهندگی زیاد دیدم.
Because of my profession, I have worked with many refugees and I have seen many refugee communities.
چیزی که من در اینجا دیدم و بسیار برای من با ارزش بود این بود که اونها اختلاف سیاسی، مردم پناهندگان تبت اختلاف سیاسی با هم نداشتن، یعنی همه میدونستن که چی میخوان.
What I saw here and I thought was very valuable for me was that the refugees here do not have any political differences, the Tibetan refugees, and they know what they want.
و حال اینکه در بقیه پناهنده ها این مسئله نیست و اختلافات سیاسی اینها رو خیلی وضعیتشون رو بدتر از اونچه که هستن میکنه.
Whereas among many other political refugees, it is not the same case. They have political differences which has made their situation worse.
به عنوان مثال بعد از انقلاب حدود 4 میلیون ایرانی آمد بیرون از ایران و زندگی میکنه.
For example, since the Islamic Revolution, some 4 million Iranians have left the country and are living as refugees abroad.
که اینها در کشورهای مختلفی هستند. همشون هم در یه چیز متحدن و میدونن که مخالف جمهوری اسلامی هستن، اما در این که موافق چی هستن با هم اختلاف زیادی دارن.
They're living in many countries around the world. They're united on one thing, that they're against the Islamic Republic, but they don't know what they are in favor of, what they support.
و من متاسفانه توی آمریکا نسل دوم یا سوم مهاجرین با آمریکا رو میبینم، ایرانی هستن ولی که دیگه نمیتونن فارسی صحبت کنن بچه‌ها.
Unfortunately, I've come across the second and third generation of refugees in America, and some of their children no longer speak Persian.
اهمیتی که جامعه شما اینجا در دارالمثلا درست کردید این است که 50 سال اینا با هم متحدن، اتحادشون از بین نرفته و فرهنگ و زبان خودشون حفظ کردن.
The importance of what you've created here in Dharamsala is that for 50 years they've all been united and they have preserved their culture and their unity and their tradition.
از چین پناهنده های دیگری هم آمدن بیرون که فقط تبتی نبودن، اما اونا چون این وحدت تبتی ها رو نداشتن اونا متفرق شدن.
There have been many other refugees out of China, and they've gone to various countries, but because they haven't had the same sense of unity as the Tibetans, they have not had the same success.
و من بایستی به شما آفرین بگم که توانستید هم وحدت تبتی ها رو حفظ بکنید و همین که فرهنگ و زبان اونها رو.
So I must salute you for having succeeded in preserving the unity of the Tibetans and their language and their culture.
Thank you.
Could I just make a comment too? I've been thinking about this quite a bit in terms of the importance too of the host country, which you mentioned, Mairead. It is a big factor that India has been so open to the people of Tibet, and obviously as well Nepal, because if they had not been, as in so many cases, as you have talked about, the difficulties of the millions of Palestinians in the world, if they don't have acceptance, if they aren't offered a new home, if they aren't offered the opportunity to educate their people in their culture and their language, and if they don't have leadership like you have shown, it's very difficult to continue the way you have been able to keep the unity and tradition of the people of Tibet. So we commend, obviously, your leadership, but also India and Nepal, who have shown such compassion to the Tibetan people.
I think one thing, spiritually, the Tibetan and Indian actually it's the same root. One time, Indian Prime Minister Morarji Desai, when he became Prime Minister, I wrote, as usual, sort of congratulations. Then in his reply, he mentioned two branches of Bodhi tree, same root. He described Tibetan sort of culture, heritage, and India's cultural heritage, same root. So that's why I always describe I myself as a son of India, because all my sort of certain sort of I think way of thinking, the views of the phenomena, these things, all come from India. So all Tibetan spirituality come from India. And then me personally, last 50 years, since my age 24, now 74. So 50 years, the major portion of my life, and also best part of my life spent in this country. So because of these two reasons, I describe myself as a son of India. So the 1,000 years, we have very, very unique close relations. So Tibetans are one of the, I think, faithful disciple of Indian tradition. Although there are many Buddhist countries, but Tibetan case, I think physically also is just next border. So I think some very, very unique close relations. Sometimes I jokingly telling my Hindu friends, their God, Shiva, their God. You see, the Shiva deity's permanent residence is in Mount Kailash, snow mountain in the western part of Tibet. So millions of Indians, you see, very sacred place in that mountain, snow mountain. And the rivers come from that. You see, the Ganga river. You see, the millions of people, Hindus, you see, they annually come to that river and take bath. That is purifying their sort of mistake or sins, like that. So we Buddhist, Buddha was Indian. So their deity, Shiva, since his permanent residence inside Tibet, so we consider him as a Tibetan. So India's spiritual deities is Tibetan. We Tibetan sort of spiritual sort of what's the teacher, master, Buddha was Indian, like that. Some special conditions there. And then, of course, I think the politically also, you see, Tibet is just the next sort of as a neighbor. So therefore, since late 50s, 59, the Indian leaders, you see, look very seriously about Tibet, like that. So we have some very, very, very unique sort of relations. That also one factor. Then I think Indian tradition generally, you say, always is a welcome because of the foreigners as a guest. So that kind of a tradition also there. So like that.
I want to move to the subject of education. So when you think about educating the children...
Some question from the rest of the people? No. Oh, when we should manipulate way. Manipulate some way. Manipulate. Oh. You have no right to ask questions. Sorry. Yes.
When you move to
I think if time permits, I think you should ask us few questions.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
Oh, yes. So what do you think? What do you think? Welcome some question there. Oh, so now already majority now. No?
You agree?
1, 2, 3. Me also. I think we unanimously now.
Aha, we overthrow the dictator. We overthrow the dictator. Non-violently.
Yes.
Can I ask a question about education?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you start. Then I think from the audience some questions. So.
When you think about educating the children of the world for the 21st century, what is the most important lesson we can learn from the Tibetan people and the Tibetan traditions?
I think that I think not that simple. Not that simple. Many occasions I express, I think we need some highly educated and experienced sort of educationist, and as well as some, I think, psychologist, some social worker, some concerned people and who have real sort of wisdom and experience, and sort of study, research work. What is the best way, you see, to teach in school, from kindergarten up to university, about moral ethics or compassion, these things? Not as a subject of religion, but simply in order to be happy human being individually, happy family, happy community. I think something we are lacking. General sort of modern education subject, simply, you see, how to make oneself rich. I think not pay much attention about how to develop inner peace. So that, I think, part responsibility is put on religious group, religious institution. So now the religious institution also, you see, their influence decline. So then nobody take care about spiritual side, moral ethics side. But I don't think, you see, we can say, oh, we have some sort of experience to tell world, because of world younger generation. No. That's unrealistic.
I think in the last century we have put a lot of focus in educating just the mind, you know, the logic and the rationale. And it's been an age of technology.
That's right.
And we have developed weapons that can destroy the world.
That's right.
While technology is marvellous, I mean, I love the internet.
Yes, that's right.
But we have developed really things that are horrible and destructive, and the vast amount of our best brains and our money goes into militarism and war and nuclear weapons, which are no use to us.
That's right.
So I think that because we've divorced the head from the heart, that we haven't made wise decisions. So we need to kind of try to find the balance. I think if we educate the heart, because people are heart people, our emotions are very important and part of us, our feelings. But if we can kind of start looking at our education systems where we try to educate the heart, and how we, young people, when they come into school, instead of rushing to teach them the 3 R's, writing, arithmetic and reading, I mean, could we not look at giving our little children right from the beginning a time in which they learn to deal with their inner emotions of fear and insecurity, and where they learn how to make friends, and then that the more serious thing can come as well. But to me, we need to somehow be able to combine the head and the heart, so that our best intelligence, but we bring the heart and wise decisions to it. So we really need to revisit the whole educational system, and starting also in the home, of course, where all education starts, but through the educational system itself. And I think then that would help us bring about a more humane society and humane world.
True. Very good.
من در یک کتابی خوندم که بزرگترین سفر انسان از مغز به قلبشه.
I read in a book that the biggest journey of a person is from the head to the heart.
No.
و یعنی اونچه که ما دانشی که اندوختیم بایستی با احساسات انسانی خودمون آمیختش بکنیم که بتوانه برای مردم مفید باشه.
Which means we have to, the knowledge we've accumulated, we have to find a bond between that and our emotions so that it could be useful to the people.
True.
و این سفری نیست که در بزرگی بشه انجامش داد. بایستی از کوچکی یاد بدیم چگونه این سفر اتفاق بیفته.
And this is not a journey that you can teach adults. It's a journey that you should teach from when they're children to when they become adults.
من شخصا بسیار موافقم که اخلاقیات و معنویات جزء دروس بچه‌ها باشه.
I personally believe that ethics and morality should be part of the curriculum of schools.
الان جوانهای خیلی از جوانها رو میبینیم که فقط تنها هدفشون تو زندگی این است که موبایلشون رو شیک‌تر بکنن یا کامپیوترشون رو هر 6 ماه یه بار عوض بکنن.
We see many young people whose main concern these days is to have a new cell phone or mobile phone or have the latest computer.
و از مدرسه رفتن اینا رو یاد گرفتن.
And this is what they're learning from going to school.
یعنی چشم هم چشمی با هم دیگه و زیاده خواهی.
That means competing against each other and greed, wanting more.
و این آموزش غلطه. آموزش درست این است که ما اون سفر بین مغز تا قلب رو به اینا یاد بدیم.
That is the wrong education. The right education is to show them the journey from the head to the heart.
اگر یه جوونی اینو یاد بگیره بقیه مسائل زندگیش رو خودش میتونه حل کنه.
And when a young person learns that, he or she can resolve all the other problems that he has.
Absolutely. Which time you have to go? 2:30.
We have 15 minutes.
Yes.
So should I do a question?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so are there any questions from the audience on the subject? And the subject is, how do we deepen our understanding of the contributions of the Tibetan people to the world over the past 50 years? Anybody have a question on that subject? Yes.
Your Holiness, it's a great honor to be here today. Thank you for everyone who organized the opportunity to listen in on this interesting conversation, so thank you for that. There's a question about the importance of host governments the ability for the Tibetan people in exile to foster their culture has been dependent on host governments, India and Nepal. And I wonder if you could comment on the role that Chinese influence is having on host governments. Specifically in Nepal, there's been some suggestion that the Chinese are asking the Nepali government to do certain things. And I just wonder if you could elaborate on whether or not it's a concern you have going forward if Chinese pressure might force host governments to change their policies to Tibetan exile.
That's a political question. Of course, obviously, the totalitarian regimes sort of pressure everywhere, even in the United States also. So I think both India and Nepal receiving some special blessing from Peking. That's quite clear. But then Nepalese government say the situation overall in Nepal not very settled, not very sort of stable. So a lot of problems. So the Chinese pressure, Chinese communist pressure, you see, more effective. Like that. Next question.
Thank you very much. You've spoken today about change in the 21st century, and I think there's been much change and involvement in the Tibetan community in exile, and I have great admiration for that, and I think that it's a great lesson for the world how you have evolved from a theocracy to a democracy, and how the inclusion of women in your community. And do you see, in terms of this change that's going on in the 21st century that you've been referring to, do you think that is about the inclusion of women? Do you think that women are going to be a larger part of the dialogue and the shaping of the future of the 21st century?
No. That I always is appealing as the people. You know, my basic sort of thinking is, basic idea is, I think the 100,000 years ago, the human community, very small number, and they all worked together. At that time, I don't think the idea of leadership. Then eventually population increase and some unhealthy things will happen, or killing, or stealing, rapes, or these things will happen. So then eventually the people realize necessary leadership. Suppose who lead more just society like that. But sometimes leadership themselves lead wrong way. So that's the idea. Is to come from the idea of leadership. Is to come from. Then at that time, no education, no rule of education. So therefore, the physical strength is the main sort of condition or quality of the leadership. So male dominance come through that way. Then eventually education now start, and important rule of education. Then that makes more equal female, male. Now not only that, as you mentioned, the journey to head to heart. So now we really need more emphasis, importance of compassion, or forgiveness, these things, in order to build more harmonious society, more happy society, where fear should not there, distrust should not there. So the only remedy, remove remove distrust, suspicion, fear, is compassion. If you treat others compassionately, sincerely, truthfully, then no basis of fear, no basis of distrust, no basis of suspicion. So compassion, loving kindness, compassion, these things are foundation of happy human society. These itself, nothing to do with religious faith. All religious faith supposed to build with that value. So therefore, now, 21st century, we really need, we already discussed, we already touched, we need special effort for promoting these inner value. Universally acceptable, not without religion. Religious faith, then, you see, it becomes narrow, or this religion, that religion, that religion. So we usually call secular way. Now here, biologically, female have more sort of sensitivity about others' pain. I think most killer human history, sometimes very, very big name, hero, but actually killer. Most of them male. I think one person you see dying, 2 persons witness, one male, one female. There's more chance the female go to help. The male may remain like that. So this is biological factor. Everybody is born from our mother. Our father, I think sometimes, very sincere, devoted father, but sometimes enjoy themselves, then forget all the responsibility. Male, no. Female, no. Till, you see, their child, you see, become more independent. Because of that, much pay attention. So like that. So therefore, now time is come. Female who have biologically more potential to bring affection, compassion on human society, in humanity. Therefore, women should take more active role regarding promotion of human deeper value, compassion. So that's my view. So therefore, recently I mentioned at our meeting, or some people may call me feminist. So that's the basis, like that. This is this sort of comment, not sort of appeasing these 3 female Nobel laureates. In public talk in France or in America, in many areas, I publicly appeal like that.
Very quickly.
Well, I think women are very, very important, as His Holiness has said, in deepening the compassion. But I think if it's really to be changed, that women have to bring a new agenda to the fore. I mean, the agenda is of mostly militarism and war and nuclear weapons, and I think if women can change the policies, and human security must move away from this idea of militarism into human security being people having enough food, houses, education, healthcare. And if this is the agenda that women are bringing out for new policies, then they can bring real change. But if they just go down the old road with the old policies of doing the old way and become even more militaristic, then that is not going to work. But I think also too, women have to be very careful, because the most important thing is that we find our own inner peace and that we find our roots and our community. And women are very happy when they are in their roots, in their community, in their family. And they have to find a balance in their lives, because you can't have everything in life. You know, you can't. You have to make choices, and women have to make the choices that they find their own inner peace and that their families are happy. Because there's a recent report brought out in England where they did research amongst young children, and young children were reporting so for some of them, they've never been so unhappy, because they don't know where their mothers and their fathers are. Because this pressure now on women to have careers, to be everything, they're being pulled apart. And society is not ready yet to help this new evolving of women into the political and front, because they don't have the backup. Maybe their partner is not the one who's going to be there when they're not, or the governments are not providing enough health care. So women are in danger of being pulled apart and not being happy and not being fulfilled. So I really think that as we move forward for women to come more to the front, that women have serious choices to make, and that they and society be somehow developed to allow them to, yes, do what helps them be fulfilled, but above all helps them to meet the needs of their families and the compassionate, loving thing that a mother brings to a family, which after all is a beautiful thing to be able to do. So it's a very difficult situation for women, and it's not easy. It is a very difficult choice that we all are given to how we go forward in today's society. I don't know whether, you know.
Yeah, I agree totally, Mairead. I think that one thing that we have to do in today's world is stop thinking about what women talk about as being women's issues. It's human issues. The concerns of our planet are the concerns of everyone, whether we're men or women. You know, some of the diseases, it doesn't matter if I'm a man or a woman, I can get the disease. It doesn't matter. If a nuclear bomb drops, it's men and women who die. Militarism takes money away from education, health care, housing. So it is women taking a lead and setting a new agenda of human values and human issues, not women issues. And I agree with you fully about the need for compassion, secular training in school. I think part of the response to the conundrum you talk about, the pulling apart, is because there's too much emphasis on greed, money, education for the ability to make money. But if we are able to look at education more holistically with a teaching of compassion and societal value, it will be easier to support human beings in all of the choices they make, whether it's a woman to stay home or a man to stay home with his children. But it takes all of that and a new agenda, and I think women will be in the forefront of setting that agenda. I think men are too afraid to connect their head to their heart.
True, very true.
اونچه که باعث تبعیض علیه زنها میشه مذهب نیست.
What causes discrimination against women is not religion.
بلکه فرهنگ پدرسالاره که برابری انسانها رو قبول نداره.
It is the patriarchal culture that doesn't accept equality of human beings.
من وقتی که میگم فرهنگ پدرسالار منظورم جنس مذکر نیست، بلکه منظورم فرهنگی است که برابری انسانها رو قبول نداره.
When I say patriarchal, I'm not referring to the male and to the masculine gender. I'm talking about a culture that doesn't accept equality of human beings.
چون این فرهنگ برابری انسانها رو قبول نداره، نه تنها به زن ستم میکنه، بلکه دموکراسی رو هم نمیتونه تحمل بکنه.
And because this culture doesn't believe in equality, not only it has no respect for women, it can't tolerate democracy either.
کشورهایی که وضعیت دموکراسی در اون بهتره، وضعیت زنها به نسبت بقیه کشورهای غیر دموکراتیک بهتره.
In countries where democratic situation is more improved, women have a better situation than in non-democratic countries.
Yes, that's right.
من زنها هرچند قربانیان این فرهنگ غلط هستند اما حامل و باز تولید کننده این فرهنگ هم هستند.
Although the women are victims of such a culture, they're also responsible for producing and creating and raising this culture as well.
برای اینکه یادمون نره که هر مرد زورگویی بالاخره در دامن یک زن تربیت شده.
We must not forget that every man who is a bully has been raised by a woman.
من فرهنگ مرد پدرسالار رو به بیماری هموفیلی تشبیه میکنم.
I think a patriarchal culture is like hemophilia.
این یک نوع بیماری است که
Hemophilia is a
Blood
disease.
این یک نوع بیماری است که یک خراش کوچک میتونه منجر به زخم به خونریزی زیادی بشه.
Hemophilia is a disease when a little wound causes much blood.
Blood, that's right.
این یک بیماری ژنتیکیه.
It's a genetic disease.
That's right.
و زنها این ژن بیمار رو به اولاد پسرشون میدن.
And this is a disease that is carried by women, and the women are carriers, and it's given to their sons.
یعنی زنی که این ژن بیماری رو داره خودش بیمار نمیشه، اولاد دخترش هم بیمار نمیشه، اما اولاد پسرش رو بیمار میکنه.
So a woman who suffers from this disease of hemophilia, she doesn't suffer from it. Her daughters don't, but the sons are the only ones who carry this disease from the mother.
بنابراین اون چه که برای ما مهمه اینه که زنها رو آگاه بکنیم به این فرهنگ غلط.
So it's important that we make the women aware of this wrong culture.
و اشکال مختلف عملکرد این فرهنگ غلط رو نشون بدیم.
And we can show them the different ways of impact of this wrong contact.
اون وقت با این فرهنگ اگر مبارزه کنیم میبینیم که در داخل هر تمدن و هر مذهبی میتونیم تساوی حقوق رو داشته باشیم.
And if we resist this culture, if we struggle against it, then we can see we can have the equal rights in any religion and in any culture.
Your Holiness, we are out of time because these two have to go to the airport. I would like to present you with this gift on behalf of us to you, small gift. Thank you for your support of PSHM and all of our programming here.